Um, you know, when you're trying to share the gospel with somebody that has never heard it before, what do you, how do you tell it in such a way that it's interesting to them, that they stay engaged with it, interact with it, or whatever?
Yeah, in fact, that's a great question, because one of the dangers you have if you don't know how to share the gospel is providing too much information, and the person you're talking to, their eyes are just going to glaze over. So what we use as a model is Jesus himself. Jesus spoke truth, illustrated with stories. Spoke truth, illustrated with stories. So what we do is we go through the gospel presentation. We break it into 5 easy pieces. They can be memorized by every trainee. And each of those 5 easy pieces is illustrated with a story. So that we speak the truth, then we illustrate with the story, then say it. Then we'll map that story back to, in the same way, God. And the first piece we're talking about heaven. Second piece we're talking about sin. Third piece we're talking about God himself. The fourth piece we're talking about Jesus. And the fifth piece we're talking about faith. What does it mean to believe and trust Jesus? And each of those illustrations is designed using an everyday example. For example, Diet Coke. Would you drink a Diet Coke if it was 50% poison, 50% Diet Coke?
No.
No. What if it's 80% Diet Coke, 20% poison?
No.
92% Coke, 8% poison?
No.
You wouldn't drink that Diet Coke if there was any poison in it, because it would kill you. And in the same way, when we offer our lives up to God, we think, hey, I got a lot more good deeds than bad deeds. Surely he'll take my 73% pure Diet Coke. No, he won't. He can't. If there's any sin in it at all, he can't let me in. Well, people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So we map it back to an everyday occurrence, and then map it to God and how he views us.
Yeah. And it's always interesting how people are always interested in hearing stories that confirm in truth. It's always engaging to them.
Yeah, in fact, well, as you well know, one of the delights is, as you're talking to people, you can ask them later what they think about the stories, and they always say, I loved them.
Yeah.
They understand the truths embedded in the stories.
Yeah.
So it takes it out of theology. It makes it a lot more practical.
Yeah. You know, let me just say this. I had connections with different evangelists, and I think that Charlie is the greatest evangelist and the greatest teacher of evangelism, and his theology is wonderful as well. I highly recommend it.
Well, one of the reasons why I invited Terry to be here today is Terry is living proof of the example that other pastors can be to a man who's going to grow up to be a pastor. Although Terry himself had not done any actual evangelism, he had in the back of his mind a model set by a preacher that you grew up under in Iowa, and he went out on Tuesday nights to share his faith. And so somewhere in the back of your mind, you knew that that's really what preachers ought to be doing, that would be a good idea. But I think what happens is preachers are so busy, so many things coming in, they just don't have time. And it takes something special to, I guess, to be the catalyst to get a pastor. But I've never met this guy that you modeled, that modeled for you, but I'm so thankful he came across your life, because he didn't know it at the time, but he was setting you up to succeed at this.
Yeah.